Good morning, and I say good morning because it's a Thursday morning, and this Thursday morning I was so busy answering comments that I haven't had anything to drink yet, and it's like 20 minutes after 10. So here I was answering comments about the 33-year-old Glendronach, and I just am uploading right now simultaneously as I'm doing this the video from the 30-year-old Highland Park. But now I'm going back to some whiskeys that I've had quite some time ago, around the time I was getting into whiskey more seriously. And these are ones that I never made a video about. But I think it's time to do so now for completeness sake. I have here the infamous Johnnie Walker Red Label. And I'm going to let the little metal stays on the cap break off. And here we are. I'm going to pour this into a Strathcona 2015 Whiskey Festival glass. And the 2015 Whiskey Festival was the first one that I attended. I remember reading in a comment, I don't know if it was in a live in a live stream or a comment on the video, but somebody at one point wanted to see a picture of me as a teen. Well, here it is. This is was taken at the cabin in Naminan, Quebec, back in 1982, around the time I was old enough to legally drink in the province of Quebec. So here it is, just in case anyone's curious. So now we have the Johnnie Walker Red Label, the famous no-age statement, whiskey that everyone seems to love to hate among people who are connoisseurs of whiskey. I've seen comments of people saying, the only whiskey I ever didn't like was this one. There's some smoke. Reminds me of burning barn board. You know, barn board, the wood that they made old barns out of. The wood that's been in the sun and the rain and in the elements for decades. It's all turned gray, and it's kind of dry rotting on the sides and so on. That's what the smoke in this reminds me of. There are some fruity notes as well. I'm getting some cherries, raspberries, strawberries, that kind of thing with the smoke. The smoke of that smoldering, burning, waterlogged, gray and dry rotting. I know dry rotting and waterlogged kind of doesn't, there's a disconnect there, but I wanted something cheap to chuck down my gullet this morning, and I didn't want it to be expensive. I wanted it to not necessarily taste great, but at least be something to drink. Johnnie Walker Red Label, 750 mils, $27.99. So $28, 10-cent bottle deposit, a 5% goods and services tax. That would be about $1.40, and a 10% liquor tax would be $2.80. And there you go. So grand total, 280, 140, 420 on top of 28. So $32.30 going out the door. with all taxes and everything, and legally binding and so on. Yeah, there's that cherry and maybe even a bit of pineapple in there. You can also tell that there is grain spirit in here. You know it's not a malt. You know that most of it is grain. There's almost a corn sweetness to it, as well as that fruitiness and the smoke that smells like dry rotted waterlogged barn board. Let's give it a taste. It's surprisingly quite viscous. And it tastes just like dry rotted barn board. If you like the taste of waterlogged, dry rotted barn board, this stuff is wonderful. It's great for mixing with things, and great with ice. And if you want to get drunk fast, just belt this down and don't taste it. Just shove it right down your gullet and let it go down. Yeah. There's a bit of a softness to it. Almost like the way a new make corn spirit would taste like. I wouldn't go as far as calling it fudgy or chocolatey. There's your infamous entry-level whiskey that basically still relies on its reputation as a big name brand to sell whiskey. Now, that reputation was so large that back in the 1970s, in order for Johnnie Walker to make more profits, there was a shortage of supply in the world. But they wanted to maximize their profits, so what they did was they shipped most of it to the United States, where they could sell it for a higher price than they could in the UK. Now, because of the shortage, the global shortage, most of it was sent to the United States, so the UK had a real shortage of this stuff, and you couldn't buy it anywhere. So then, there were these other people who came along. Let's see who they were. Get some brighter light here. Space side style. And this company called John Barr came along and said, we're going to take up the slack and we're going to get rid of the shortage by making a similar whiskey. I think that's what they said. Same metal stays. Oh, it's got one of these international, you can't pour it back in things. I've never seen this on the John Barr before, but There you go. It's this way you can never um, refill the bottle, especially with the more expensive and better whiskey. Oh, it's going to pour very slowly. Okay, there's about 50 mils right there. There's a bit less here because I've had a bit to drink from the Johnnie Walker. Here's the John Barr, costing a hefty $21.99. So $22, 5% of that would be $1.10 for the GST, and $2.20 for the alcohol tax. At least with this, you don't pay that much alcohol tax. And the 10-cent bottle deposit once again. Okay, John Barr, here we go. Oh, definitely getting corn. Corn right on the cob. It hasn't even been husked yet. It smells like corn husks. I'm not getting a lot of smoke or peat. Just corn husks. But wait. There's a hint of that barn board once again. Barn board. And something grassy. Grassy like hay. Hay that's been cut. Hay that's been cut and sitting in bales. And then the rain fell on the bales of hay. And then the hay started to rot. Wait, I'm getting a Tootsie Roll. I'm getting a bit of a Tootsie Roll chocolate kind of note. This is opening up as I sit here. So along with that slightly rotten hay, there is a chocolate Tootsie Roll kind of note to it. Corn husks. It's also quite evident that because of the corn, there's corn whiskey in here. What does it say on the bottle? Probably not a lot. Yeah. Blended in the original Speyside style by legendary master blender Richard Patterson. Oh, goody! Richard Patterson, our old friend from Dalmore, and also from White and Mackay. Soft, mellow, and smooth. Oh, Richard Patterson, my hero. I actually met him once. He was pouring Dalmore 18 at the same whiskey festival where I got this glass. Yeah, and I had my glass already in my pocket, and then I was waiting for a ride home and sitting in this chair being as drunk as I could be, and somebody put a dirty glass right in front of me. And one of these is the one that was in my pocket, and the other one was my dirty glass. First whiskey festival experience I ever had. Unforgettable. Oh yeah. And the difference? Here we got. Oh. Much more smoke on the Johnnie Walker. Less corn. More smoke. More barn board, less hay. And here again, some chocolate, some rotten hay, some sherry, but the sherry here might all be coloring. It might all be coloring. Anyway, apparently this brand never really took off like Johnnie Walker did, but it's still available. It's still being exported to Canada. Let's give it a taste. I'm getting some caramel now. Let's do this again. Quite viscous for a 40%er. Oh, corn whiskey and young. 3 years in a day in a cask. Some sherry, but that grain just sings. It sings. There's a bit of chocolate too. Bit of rot from the hay. Yeah, there's definitely chocolate on the nose. And also some on the palate. Along with the corn husks. The youth is incredible on this. That would make a good mixer too. And if you can't get Johnnie Walker Red, this is more affordable too. It's what? It's $6 cheaper. $6 cheaper. See, that's what you pay for the big name brand. $6 extra. In quality, they're quite comparable. I think the Barr is a little darker, but that may be just coloring. There's the Barr. It's a little darker. I think it may be just the coloring. Both of them are not ideal sipping whiskeys, but when you're on a really low budget and you're broke and you're about to file bankruptcy because you can't pay anything, these will do to make you feel a little better. Anyway, a double slancha slancha.
Food Quig.
Food Quig.
Food Quig.
Food Quig.
Food Quig.
Yeah.